It's with the greatest honor that we announce our special guest, Walter Ruiz. Graywolf. Graywolf will be our featured guest tonight, and he is a father, grandfather, and a great-grandfather. And he is from the Yoem tribe. He's been a lifelong activist, and his activism began in his teenage years during the civil rights movement. And when he organized the Freedom Riders, and the Freedom Riders are a group of people who fought for desegregation. And he was an activist with the anti-war movement fighting against the Vietnam War. And he has been an active participant and organizer for the American Indian movement for the past 6 decades. And he is the former director of the Southern California chapter of the American Indian movement. Much of his activism, am I still on? Okay. Much of his activism has been boots on the ground work, and he has helped bring propane during the winter to the people on Pine Ridge. And he's helped during COVID, making over 30 trips to the Navajo Nation and organizing the first Indigenous Peoples Day in Los Angeles and stopping the Columbus Day celebrations. And he and others have been actively targeted by the government's counterintelligence program. And am I still on? Okay. He's well known for his outspoken activism and speaks his mind. In addition, he is an actor, and he was nominated for an Emmy for his costume work in Conquest of America. He's a blues artist and who is highly recognized and honored. And Graywolf is a true example for our youth, living his life drugs and alcohol free, and he's a lifelong supporter of the Leonard Peltier movement. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, Graywolf.
Well, I'm glad to be here, even though it's this technical stuff is beyond me, but I've managed to get on, so I'm here.
We'll just go ahead and give you the floor, and then we'll take a question session afterward. And so welcome, and go ahead.
Well, it's it's very difficult for me to talk about a lot of things because sometimes when people are like this introduction, I'm going like, wow, I want to meet this guy. Who is this guy that everybody's talking about? I just do the stuff. I don't really think about it when I'm doing it. And a lot of times, I get involved in so many different things that it just kind of confuses me. When people start talking, did you do this? Yeah. Did I do this? Yeah. Okay. But I just do it. I don't even think about it. When I got the call to go to Standing Rock, for example, I remember that Clyde Belcourt, who was the head of AIM at the time, said that all the chapter directors had to go to Standing Rock. And I said, wow, this is going to be really difficult for me, but I'm going to do it because, if Clyde asks, then I do. And so I went to Standing Rock, and I was a little surprised that I was probably one of the few directors that did go. And one of the things I hate is cold. My people come from the desert. We don't do snow. We don't do ice. I hate that. And so it was miserable for me. But I was so involved with everything that was happening that I never felt the cold. People would say, well, we see pictures of you. You're not wearing a hat. You're not wearing this. And I said, I was too excited. I was too busy doing what I had to do to worry about doing what I had to do. And so that's the way my life is. I don't think about I'm supposed to protest the war. I mean, it's like an automatic. I don't think about civil rights. It's automatic. And coincidentally, now half my family is Black, so I get involved in all these different issues like BLM. I was involved with Black Lives Matter for a long time. In fact, we led one of the biggest marches down Hollywood Boulevard. I think it was something like 50,000 people. And you can see me and a few of the other AIM guys up front carrying the AIM flags. They honor us by having Indigenous people lead these marches. Again, I don't think about it. I just do it. I was a little overwhelmed. I look behind me and I can't see the end of the crowd of 50,000 people. So, but you got to do these things. And that's what annoys me sometimes about what's happening today with Leonard, for example. Everybody says, free Leonard Peltier, but it's just like words. How about the action? How come we don't get out there and do anything, you know? With Leonard, I've heard about Leonard's case, maybe David could help me out, maybe 20 years ago. I started doing radio shows, and I was on MySpace. Remember MySpace? And people started telling me, well, what do you think about Leonard? And I said, well, I really don't know because I never gave it much thought. Let me think about this. And so I met a man named Ben Carnes, who turned out to be a really good friend. And he filled me in on the Leonard thing. And from then we started doing radio shows. David was even on one of the shows. One of the best shows we had was David Hill, Ben Carnes, and Bob Rubidoux all on at the same time. And that show was so good that I got a call from the FBI telling me that I should really be careful of what I say. And I was like shocked. And then I thought about it and I said, this just makes me angry and I'm going to just do more. And so that's when I really jumped in and learned about the case, read everything I could find on the case. Ben sent me the some of the trial papers, on and on. And I'm just, my life is really strange because I meet people that I'm supposed to meet. I went to go see Anita Hill, and I did not know that Anita Hill's husband was one of the lawyers who worked with Dennis and everybody else. And we had a long conversation, and we came to the conclusion that, again, people talk about freeing Leonard, but they don't really do too much about it. This march, like, for example, I'm not going to talk the march down, but instead of, like hundreds of people, we should have thousands of people. And that's where I don't get this. I don't understand this. It's that Indigenous people make up about a third of the population of the United States, and we can't get nothing done. We are, somebody said, we're like irrelevant and invisible. Yeah, exactly, because we want to be irrelevant and invisible. I think we've been beat down so much, we're afraid to stand up and speak out. And that's annoying to me because we have these important issues, like this Leonard Peltier issue has been going on for over 40 years, and we're still dealing with it, anybody who knows about the case know if you ask anybody, you say, who's Leonard Peltier? And they'll tell you, oh, he's in prison for killing 2 FBI agents. Wrong. They don't even know the case. You got to learn about the case, learn about the injustice of this whole situation, and then get up and do something. It's difficult for me because I can't even get people to call. There's a number to call the White House. I said, call every day if you have to. But let's get this taken care of, because it's an issue that has to be taken care of. There's a lot of other issues, but this is one of the most important ones that I see, and it's not one of the most important. It is one of many important issues, and all of them have to be addressed. It seems to me that we are becoming the people who can only concentrate on one thing at one time, and that's wrong. I mean, I'm fighting I was like David just said, Navajo Nation. The pandemic was devastating for the Navajo people, and they were not getting any help. So I organized some convoys to take medical supplies, masks, gloves, sanitizer, and I did it. I think I'm on my 35th trip. I still do it, and we set up at flea markets and just give away the stuff that we've collected. And I didn't wait around for somebody to tell me to do this. I did it on my own, and I was upset because somebody just asked me, "Why did you leave National AIM?" And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons was because I got a call from the assistant director of the GGC, and he told me that I should stay in my own backyard. And that really annoyed me. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, we have chapters in Arizona. And I said, yeah, chapters that are doing zero, nothing. So I said, I'm not going to wait around for people to die so I show up. I'm going to go and prevent people from dying, and that's what I can do. I said, we're forgetting one thing. we are different tribes and we are different locations and different a lot of things, but we are all one people. That was what was important to me. My people are dying, and I'm going to do something about it. See, and that's what gets me in trouble, to be honest. You know, I think somebody said, "Oh, I'm outspoken and this and that." I really don't care. I don't care what people think. I just think about what has to be done, and I do it, and that's all there is to that. You know. So, any questions about that?
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you think that we could better organize and advocate for Leonard? Like you said, there's 100 walkers, there should be 1,000. What can we do as a collective, people that want to help him, like to help assist in that? Like in any kind of organization.
Okay, every opportunity I get to speak out about the Leonard Peltier situation, I take. We all should be doing that. I don't know how many radio shows I've done on the issue. I don't know how many Facebook posts I've done on the issue. And we all have to do that. I even have a group called Cyber Warriors, and I tell people, if you can't get out in March, you can write an email, you can make a phone call, and Cyber Warriors does that. So most of the people on Cyber Warriors know about the Leonard Peltier situation, since I've broken it down so many times. And I think that's part of the problem, is the education that we need to educate people on the real issue of the Leonard Peltier, the real truth, not the baloney, not that he killed 2 FBI agents, but the honest truth, you know. And maybe that'll wake people up. You know, it's so simple. You tell people, well, this could happen to him, it could happen to you. You know, he was railroaded, kangaroo court. And they could do the same thing to you. And this is what people don't understand. And this is how it's so difficult to get people to get up and stand up. Again, being an activist for me was real simple. My father was pretty vocal, and that's where I pick up a lot of what happens to me, is that my father was very outspoken. He hated the Christian religion. I don't hate the Christian religion. I just don't partake. But he was very vocal in his thoughts, and he taught me a lot. And one of the main things he taught me is that you can't worry about what people think about you. You just got to do what you got to do, and that's what I've done. Other people have to do the same thing. I always thought that I was leading by example, because I get tired of beating people over the head about the Leonard Peltier situation. I said, isn't it time that people started waking up to these things on their own and started to do whatever has to be done to get this man out of prison, which he doesn't belong? I don't know. Again, a lot of it is that what are the issues that prevent people from being activists? Apathy, complacency, and sorry to say, but assimilation and mental colonization. We are colonized mentally, and we're in this little prison that we managed to let ourselves be put in, and we can't break out. Like I said, we are 1/3 of the population of the United States. We can't get anything done. We can't get anything. How come? Again, if we're 1/3 of the population of the United States, then there should be thousands of people who are upset about this issue and thousands of people protesting, and that's not the case. So I really don't know what else to do, to be honest.
We are trying to start a grassroots network called Leonard's Angels. Leonard likes that name, that's why we're using it. And I was thinking about putting out a fact sheet and asking people to take it to community colleges and put it on students' windshields. A teacher just bought a print today, and she's doing a mock trial in her classroom. It's going to be people like that get Leonard out. What do you think about talking to universities, asking if we can talk to community colleges?
I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, I just finished doing a school tour for kids that were maybe, I think they were third and fourth graders. And I brought up Leonard Peltier. And if I can do it with kids, and the teachers were all surprised that they said, we had no idea. And they wanted more information. So people are interested, but they don't know, and we're doing a very poor job of educating people on our issues. We are doing a very poor job. People say, well, why did you go with BLM? Because BLM, believe it or not, when I gave speeches for BLM, they allowed me to speak about Leonard. And that's one of the things I brought up. So I wasn't talking to 20 or 30 people. I was talking to 40 or 50,000 people. And that's very important. I have to tell you, BLM is very supportive of freeing Leonard, because they take it as an insult to their people too. And they understand, but we have to get other people to understand. I think the university is a great idea. I said, we need more ideas like that. We need more radio shows. We don't have, one of the things that makes me laugh, again, we're 1/3 of the population of the United States. Do we have a, other than like Keeley or what's the 960, I think it is, or 690, the Navajo Nation radio. We don't have radio stations that, and even those radio stations hardly ever touch these issues. So we don't have any TV stations. We had FNX, and that's been removed from most places. So we need to start our own media, and but that doesn't mean we don't belong in the regular media also. I'll give you a good example. Just recently, everybody's making jokes about indigenous creatures. Everybody got upset about it. Who did anything about it? Not one person. I put ABC's number and Facebook page and contact info on my Facebook page, and I checked to see if anybody called or said anything. Not one person said anything. They're too busy, sorry for the word, bitching to each other, but not to the people who count. If you're really upset that this poor woman who's reading a teleprompter mispronounced the word and said indigenous creatures instead of whatever she was supposed to say, then you go after the station, not after the poor woman who made a mistake. I'm not going to blame her. She's the reader. She reads the news, and we didn't do nothing about it. We let it pass. Another example, there was a Navajo Code Talker beer that was being produced by a certain company. Nobody said anything about it. I put the name of the company out. I did everything I could to, sometimes I'm good, I'm successful at these issues, and sometimes I'm not. There was another one called, what was it called? Heyoka beer. And I went after the company. They sent me a letter of apology, and they pulled a label. You see, so we can make a difference. But again, if we get up off our lazy butts and start doing something, and that's the whole thing with indigenous people, is that we are so busy trying to bring each other down that we don't address the issues. And that's what's happening with Leonard. We're so busy. Who's in charge? I don't care who's in charge. I care about getting Leonard out of prison. See, and this is what David can tell you what happened with me when they wanted me to organize all the support groups for Leonard. As soon as my name came up, there was so many people attacking me and, oh my God, and even GGC said straight out, if Graywolf is involved, we are not. And David and I were laughing. We said, they weren't involved in the first place. So, so what's the big deal? But I called the lady up who was in charge of the Leonard Peltier Defense Committee, and I said, you know what? Remove my name. I do not want to cause harm to Leonard. If I want to get him out of prison, I don't want to cause harm to him. So if my name, my persona is so toxic, then let me out of there, because that's never been my intention to cause anybody harm. I'm trying to do good for our people. So, that's an interesting thing, is that, again, we attack each other more than we attack the issues. the prime example, which just happened, is like, yes, I spent my time at Standing Rock, and I was not happy. I was not a happy guy. I sat with Clyde Belcourt, and Keith LeSueur, who was the second in charge of AIM at the time, and we had long discussions, and we came to a lot of conclusions, and the conclusions were that a lot of people will show up to events just to show up. In fact, I was starting to call the whole issue at Standing Rock Dapple-palooza, because more people were there thinking it was going to be like a happy event, and here we were trying to stop a pipeline. Okay, at one time there was close to 10,000 people in camp, yet we could only get 300 or 400 on the front lines. Okay, and that's exactly what's happening with Leonard. We can get a lot of people to be upset about it, but very few to do anything about it. And that's where we're at. I'm sure now you guys are understanding why I'm so controversial, because I'll say things that other people will not say, you know, and or they'll say it quietly in the privacy of their comfort, but I'll say it out loud, you know, I really don't care.
That's what it is going to take, though. I like you. This so enrages me, the apathy of this nation. We have given our democracy away. I think firing up the young people is going to be what does it. Maybe going to colleges, and you say you talk to third graders. I have a friend with an 8-year-old that's daily writing a letter to the president now. Automatically, Joanne wrote to her congressman about Leonard. He sent a letter back saying, well, he's a cold-blooded killer. You know, like you said, that's as far as anybody goes with it. It's like, no, those are not the facts. They could not find any evidence that associated him with anything. His co-defendants were found not guilty by reason of self-defense. I think if we put that on a fact sheet, cold, hard facts, and got it out to everyone, it might stir people up a little. I have tried political cartoons, everything short of setting myself on fire outside of Coleman.
We have to start, you know, thinking more. I don't know what the word is, drastically about what we're doing. We cannot. One of the things my father told me is never live in fear. Okay, and I do not live in fear. Believe me, I've been threatened, I've been shot at, I've been all kinds of stuff with that, and I don't even care. At a Trump rally, anti-Trump rally, I got punched in the face, you know, which to me turned out to be like a great thing, because I go on, I had to do my speech and I'm bloody and bandaged, and it made me look better. I said, you know, wow, thanks, guy, for punching me in the face, you know, because it made my point about what was going on, you know. So I you know, and if somebody asked me, would you do that again if you knew what the end result was going to be? I said, absolutely, I would. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen to me at Standing Rock. You know, I mean, I got tear gassed, I got shot at, I got all kinds of stuff happening. You know, would I do it again? Absolutely, in a second, because to the choice to be quiet and sit on my butt and become old is not an option. It's not an option. You know, my kids even asked me, Dad, when are you going to retire? I said, when the Creator decides to take me, that's when I'm going to retire, because I cannot, now that I have grandkids and great grandkids, I have to fight harder, because I cannot leave them a world that is so screwed up that we have a man in prison for something he didn't commit, you know, for a crime he didn't commit. I cannot go to, you know, leave this earth without leaving, trying to improve the environment. I cannot, you know, all these things I fight for, I cannot leave until they are done or left in good hands. And that's the part that gets to me, you know. Sad news for my for my enemies, I'm going to be a thorn in your side for a very long time, you know. So I plan to be doing this quite some time. Question?
Who has a question for Graywolf?
Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question, or just unmute.
You want to talk about Standing Rock?
Well,
We have a friend, Beatrice, that a helicopter dropped chemicals on her at Standing Rock.
okay. See, I was there, and I'm glad I went, even though I hated every second of it. Well, actually, that's not true. I loved every second of it because I felt alive. You know, people said, "Aren't you afraid of, you know?" And I said, "Of course I'm afraid. Only an idiot's not afraid. I'm no idiot. I was afraid, and I never knew what was going to happen. I almost died at Standing Rock. There was an incident at the bridge where the tear gas was so thick I could not breathe. I was actually looking for a place to lie down and die because I couldn't breathe. And by luck, a guy that I had met there at Standing Rock picked me up and dragged me out. And he literally saved my life. Like an idiot, we both went right back into the fight right after I recovered. And I got tear gassed the second time. The second time taught me a lesson. I said, I think I'm getting a little too old to do this, you know. But Standing Rock was a very interesting thing because I would come back from an event, and it'd be really brutal events where I had to run for a couple of times. I thought I was going to get arrested. There's videos of me. Everybody's running right past me, and I'm walking. And they say, "Why were you walking?" I said, "Because I don't run that well. At my age, I'm lucky to be, you know, doing what I'm doing." But it was crazy because and why am I out there doing all this stuff and there's so many people who are doing nothing, you know? I didn't understand it, but I would come back from all these horrendous events, and everybody would be so shocked and crying and, oh my God, how horrible they were to us and all that. And I would be upset, and I would tell them, I said, my own group, there was a bunch of youngsters with me. I would tell them, what did you expect? You know, this is what the government has done to our people all the time. If you came to Standing Rock to expect anything different than what you got, you were a fool. I said, this is what the government does to our people. And I you know, I was at odds with the camp leadership constantly. They called me in a couple of times to talk to me, and I said, you know what? I don't follow the rules from you. I have rules from Clyde. Clyde gave me my you know, when Clyde left, he said, Graywolf, we're leaving you in charge. And I took it serious. And I said, I'm going to do everything possible to shut this pipeline down. That's what we were there for, not to dance around the sacred fire or to do all this other craziness or sell T-shirts or all the stuff that was happening. I was there to stop the pipeline. And you don't stop it at the camp, you stop it at the pipeline. You know, so again, I don't know what to say. That's what's happening with a lot of the issues that we discussed. That's what's happening with Leonard. Is again, great. Oh, Leonard has been wrongly convicted of something and is in prison, wrongly imprisoned. What do we do about it? Let's do so. Let's just not talk. You know, we need mass protests. We need what BLM did. I'm sorry, but you know, and that doesn't mean anarchy and destroying property and all that. It means I was involved in, I would say at least 35, 40, maybe more BLM events. Not once was there any violence. And we did a lot of stuff that people would not think about doing today. We shut down freeways, and I'm not afraid to shut down a freeway. I closed down the Capitol in Sacramento 6 times. I'm not afraid to do that, you know. And And they would, the Highway Patrol, which is in charge of the Capitol building in Sacramento, would tell me, Graywolf, are you going to be peaceful? I would say, I'm always going to be peaceful. I'm just not going to do what you want, but I am going to be peaceful. I don't start fights, but I don't run from them either, So, and that's my life. That's how I've been all my life. That's the way I'm going to continue to be. So we need to not be afraid to speak out on Leonard. We need to not be afraid. We need to not worry about what others think about us and all that. This is a wrong thing that happened, and we need to correct it. It's our own people. We need to correct it. And we can't expect other people to do it for us. I'm so happy that Nelson Mandela wrote a letter, and I'm so happy that Desmond Tutu wrote a letter. I'm so happy that all these people, famous people are speaking out. But we also need to speak out and continue to speak out. And that's what's going to get the thing settled, not expecting somebody else to do it for us.
Can you tell us something about what's going on Pine Ridge today?
What's going on in Pine Ridge today? Sometimes everything is a plus and minus to me. Okay, a minus is that the weather is so brutal in the Pine Ridge that the people need help, and that's why we, Thunderwolf and myself, set up the propane fund for the Pine Ridge Reservation, which we've been doing for, I think, 17 years now. And it was, I had been to Pine Ridge, and unless you go to Pine Ridge, you do not understand how brutal the winters are. And I saw the suffering, and what really got to me is when I came back and I found out that an elder had passed away from freezing to death. And then a mother who sent her kids to live with relatives stayed at her house, and she froze to death. And when you have people freezing to death in the richest country in the world, there's a problem. And again, I don't care if there's an aim there in Pine Ridge. I don't care if there's whatever. I had to do something, and Thunderwolf had to do something. And together we came up with this plan to donate money to, not the people, to the propane company. And they put it in a fund. And if somebody came in and couldn't pay their bill, we paid it for them. And we've done that for, like I said, 17 or 18 years. I don't even remember. And the reason we didn't do it in the last couple of years is because of the pandemic. We couldn't have the concert. We used to have a huge concert. All the proceeds go to the propane company. One thing I'll say about Thunderwolf is one of the nicest, I'm just a great guy. I'm glad to be his partner in this situation, and again, then let's see what the pluses are. The pluses are that they finally decided to vet all the churches, the Christian churches on Pine Ridge. To me, that's a major, not that I'm anti-Christian, I'm not anti-Christian, I'm anti having Christianity forced on people who have thousands and thousands of years of their own spirituality and don't need to be told how to live their lives. I see this on the Navajo reservation with the Mormons. There's a lot of Mormon influence on the Navajo reservation. And I got in a fight with the Mormons, and I told them, I said, you come here to convert these people to your way of thinking, but yet you do nothing to help them with the poverty, with the hunger, the pandemic. They didn't do nothing. No church actually did anything, and that's really not a good thing to say, but it's the truth. And but you come here to convert these people, and what they told me was so shocking. They said, we do not care about their physical well-being. We are only worried about their spiritual well-being. And I was like shocked. So I said, so you would rather baptize dead people than to keep Navajo people alive? And basically they said yes. And so, again, I'm not anti-religion. but I do have some views that are different than other people's because I've experienced it. I've gone to churches and asked for help and not gotten it. And so I'm thinking to myself, you belong to a religion that claims to be, Christ-like, and you probably are the most un-Christ-like people I've ever met. So actually, I'm not so mad at Christianity as I am about Christians who don't follow what they're supposed to follow. Again, I know I'll get to hear about those words, but hey, that's how it is.
I have a question. If somebody wants to donate to the propane fund, how would we go about doing that?
Okay, very simple. Go to www.bicona, BICONA.com, and it'll take you to the propane fund. And again, I understand that the weather is brutal in Pine Ridge, and there's a huge need. And I think that if people are really interested, they go to www.bicona.com, and it'll take them to the propane page, and you can donate. Somebody just reminded me about something, and this is another thing that upsets me, is that people have to be applauded for doing the right thing. And what I'm going to explain. There was a comedian, a very funny comedian named Ralphie May. And Ralphie May was approximately 600 pounds, but he was hysterical. I really liked the guy. And I liked him until he cracked a joke about Native people. And he made a joke about the poverty and the casinos, trying to put the two together, and which is another complex situation. But I didn't appreciate the joke. And I said, this man doesn't know what he's talking about. I tracked him down. I actually got a hold of his publicist, and his publicist said to me, are you the one that wrote the long letter to Ralphie about the situation on the reservations? I said, yes. He said, actually it was a she. She says, Ralphie needs to talk to you. And so he called me, and I was shocked. And here's this famous comedian who calls me, and he said, how do I fix this? And I was stunned. And so I told him, I said, AIM is mad at you. AIM wants you to go to Minnesota, have a sit-down meeting with them, on and on, cancel your shows in Minneapolis. I can't even think of all the demands they made, but I gave Ralphie all the demands. Oh, and a benefit concert for the American Indian Movement. And he said, I agree, yes, 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 and yes. So we got all that straightened out, and I told him who to talk to and everything at AIM. Then I told him this. I said, oh no, he tells me, Graywolf, what can I do for you? I said, for me, nothing, but I have this propane fund, and I told him all about it. He says, I'm in. I said, what do you mean you're in? He says, I'll do a free concert for you, and anything that comes through the door, I will match. And he did. He was amazing. So he helped with that propane fund. And we were planning the second concert when he passed away. Because but the whole point of my bringing that up was because so many people took credit for doing all that. Oh, this guy who said, I got Ralphie May to cancel his appearance in Minneapolis. No, he didn't. But I didn't say nothing because I said, that's not the important part. The important part is that Ralphie did the concert, that we got a lot of money, that a lot of people didn't freeze to death. That was what was important. Who the credit should go to, that's not important. And that's what's happening with our people. We are so involved in getting the credit for everything we do that we don't do nothing. You know, and I could say that 1,000 times. I never get credit for a lot of the stuff I do, but as long as it's done, who cares? Who cares who gets the credit? I don't. You know, I would rather not, because that's one less thing people have to hate me for. You know, somebody mentioned about Columbus Day. You know, Columbus Day was celebrated in Los Angeles repeatedly. And we finally, American Indian Movement went to City Hall, and meeting after meeting after meeting, we showed up, we protested, we gave speeches, we on and on and on. And finally, we convinced almost all of the city council to vote to abolish Columbus Day and institute Indigenous Peoples Day. So, the hate mail I got, why don't you just leave things alone? You're just rewriting history and on and on and on. And I said, no, I just, whatever. I'll take all the heat. I don't care. I do it again. Okay. But you got to be able to be willing to take all that. Was it Winston Churchill says, you have enemies? Good. Means you are doing something, because if you're upsetting people, then you're actually getting something done. And that's right, the way I look at it. I said, to me, people who hate what I have to say or what I do, I have this whole thing that comes to mind as haters. It's mind over matter. I don't mind because they don't matter. It's that simple. Okay. If you worry about what people say, you'll never do nothing. Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? Go, Sal.
I'm technologically whatever today. This is less of a question. Actually, I think Catherine had a question, and that was, do you have to state that you want the donation to go to Pine Ridge Propane Fund?
No, it'll say on there. There's a little tab you push that says it'll take you to the propane fund. It's on there already. But is Black Indian Confederacy of North America, and that was started by Thunder Wolf, who is Delaware and Indigenous and Black, and he put this together because we were talking about how we would run it, and that's the best way to do it. So there's a tab on there,
I think, and I don't know if this is a question or comment. The whole thing of not doing very much for this cause. I mean, I hesitate, and I'll be honest, I hesitate to post too often about Leonard Peltier because I'm afraid that people will just go, So I only post a few times a week. But, I noticed that there is that hesitance for many people to take a stand. Two other things. One is that so many people I know, myself included, until I joined this club and began to read In the Spirit of Crazy Horse as everybody else, I knew nothing about this. And I don't know how many other hundreds and thousands of people know absolutely nothing. When I do state the causes to people, whether privately or in a post or in a conversation or a phone call, they're like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, go look it up. Go read it here. Go read it there. And I think if everybody, we're a small group. We have, I don't know, it looks like 15, 16 people here tonight. If we all talked to or posted once or twice this week, committed to posting at least once a week, committed to reaching out to somebody who maybe, had a question once a week, that would make a difference. Now, once a week, that's slow over time, but the astounding amount of people who know nothing and were taught nothing about what really happened in history, about so many things and so many peoples, but specifically Indigenous peoples here in Turtle Island, is just astounding. So if we could get that story out, each of us, in some way, I think that would begin to make a dent. The other thing I notice, and this may be a touchy issue, so if it is, I'm sorry, but oh well. With every group of color that I look at, as far as I know, a white person, they are so freaking abused, so freaking wounded that when I get on Twitter and it's particularly Twitter, but some of the other, social media, there's all this backbiting and infighting, and I just go, oh my God, I do not want to go, first of all, viral in this community, but second of all, someone said, and I think David Hill has repeated it at least a few times, when we have really defeated our real enemy, then we can fight among ourselves. But I see many of these nations and tribes going back and forth and backbiting each other and this and that and the other, and people calling each other pretendians and what have you. And I think, how in the hell, pardon my French or Anglo-Saxon, can we start to come together? I'm a white girl trying, okay, I have white hair, but I'm still a white girl. I'm trying to find out what I can do to help. And I see this pain. And honestly, if you're that wounded, and I've been that wounded as an individual, maybe not as a collective group, if you're that wounded, it doesn't matter if it's a stroke or if it's a punch, it still hurts if you're that wounded. And so I get that. But I'm just trying to understand, how can we help pull all the different nations together? And I'm not expecting an answer from you necessarily, but I'm throwing it out there because I see this infighting on social media. And I'm like, good God, we got to pull together. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Well, my thoughts are very simple. It's, yeah, we are wounded, and the government has purposely kept us apart and caused a lot of divisions between our people.
Yes, yes.
And one of the worst things that they've done is the tribal cards and the blood quantum, which separates our people. I would have to venture to say that 80, maybe more percent of Indigenous people have no tribal cards and didn't even know what they were and could not care less about a tribal card. But for some reason, tribes with tribal cards seem to look down on other Indigenous people that don't have. And I had a fight with a guy who was at one time the chairman of the Kitu, which is one of the branches of the Ani Anuia, or the Cherokee people. And the discussion went like this. I said, honestly, you can tell me that a person with a tribal card is more native than a person without one, even though this person is a full blood, and you know that in the Anianwea, there was very few full bloods left. And he said, the government, GUVMINT, makes you an Injun, INJUN, not blood, heritage, or tradition. And that was a huge revelation to me, because that was this guy saying his opinion, and it wasn't just his opinion, it was the opinion of a lot of people with tribal cards. And I fight about that because my tribe is federally recognized, and yet I don't have a tribal card. I don't want one. That is, to me, the highest form of mental colonization you can get, that you have to have the government tell you who is and who isn't. So these divisions are planned, and they're not by accident. They're done, purposely to separate our people. And like again, I know so many Indigenous people, full blood, who speak their language, who know their tradition, who have never taken the white man's spirituality, on and on and on. And because they do not have a piece of paper that tells them, that the government tells them who they are, they're not considered native. And that's a big, huge major issue right now. See?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what come together. That's another thing is that we worry too much about what other people think about us.
Yeah.
And let me explain something. You know, somebody in my bio, it says that I'm an actor. No, I'm not really. I'm a horrible actor, but I get called. So I get hired a lot, and I play chiefs a lot. And all this. But I also am a musician. My band, the Graywolf Blues Band, has won a Native American Music Award. We've been nominated 14 times. I'm up for 2 this year. So I have what people say, aren't you worried about your career? I said, no, because I would do that no matter what. If nobody came to see me or nobody came to hear me, I'd still be doing what I'm doing. And so it doesn't make any difference. If I'm worried about my career, which to me is a surprise I even have one, you know, then I won't do nothing. I won't get anything done. So I lost the job because of Standing Rock. You know, I had to go to Standing Rock. I was there a month. I lost my job. Would I do it again? Absolutely, I would. We have to be willing to stand up for our own people. And that's another thing about educating people on the Leonard Peltier situation. It's nobody's job to educate people on the Leonard Peltier situation. It's our job. Okay, it's our people, and we are not doing a good job of that. See, so any suggestions, you know, maybe we need to start up our own radio stations and our own TV stations. And every time that I'm invited to speak, I bring Leonard Peltier every single time, whether it's Black Panther or the opening of the Dunkin' Donuts. I'm going to speak about Leonard because it's important to me. See, and the more people we convince about the travesty of the whole thing, the more people that will understand and maybe join us. But we're not doing a very good job of educating. Even our own people don't even know. You know, I don't know how many times I've had to fight with a certain tribe, which I'm not going to mention, about, well, why should we be involved? He wasn't from our people, you know. Actually, he was from your people. He just wasn't from your tribe. See, so let's make sure we know the difference between a tribe and you know, we are one people with many different tribes. And I keep telling everybody that. That's why even I just wrote a whole huge thing on how pan-Indianism has really ruined a lot of our cohesiveness as people. Because the one thing that tribes have lost that we had before that caused the disunity is respect for each other. We do not respect each other anymore. Tribes think that it's my way or the highway. Okay, and I'll give you an example. I was involved in a situation where there was going to be a sun dance in the state of California. And I spoke to the people and I said, did you get permission to do this Sundance on their land? And they go, no, this is an Indian ceremony. I said, no, it's not. I said, it's a ceremony that's particular to certain tribes. Not all tribes have the same spirituality, you know. One time I got in a fight with somebody because he came to me and he told me, he was very arrogant, and he told me that I should be excited that the white buffalo had just been born. And the white buffalo was a sign of this and that and this other. I said, buddy, my tribe comes from the Sonora Desert. We ain't seen a buffalo ever. You know, there ain't no buffalo in the middle of the desert. So I said, you have to be more respectful. I said, that is disrespectful to me. It's just like I at powwows. I'm at powwows every once in a while, and somebody comes up to me and goes, oh, and they're speaking to me in some language that I'm not familiar with. I said, how arrogant of you to think that I know your language? I answer back in my language, and they go, what did you say? I said, exactly. See, we speak English, which is a colonized language, only because it's a common language that we all know and we can communicate. The whole idea behind language is communication. If you can't communicate your thoughts, then you're wasting your time. It's just a bunch of nothing, you know, gibberish. So I tell them, I said, if you want me to speak in your language, then you need to let me know what your language is. Then I'll have to learn it. You know, if that's how we're going to communicate. But until then, we're going to communicate either English or Spanish because of the colonized languages we've been forced to learn. You see, We have no respect for each other as tribes, as we want to impose our ways on other tribes. That doesn't work. We need to start respecting each other's ways. They're different. People will say, do you go to Sundance? No, I don't go to Sundance. I also don't go to Jewish ceremonies. I also don't go to Christian ceremonies. I also don't go to Buddhist ceremonies. These are not our ways. We have almost 600 federally recognized tribes and another 200 that are not federally recognized. So that's a lot of different tribes. And within those tribes, there are different clans. So there's not one way to do anything. Somebody, I was on the set of a movie, and somebody comes up to me and says, we're going to do a pipe ceremony. So we're going to do this, and this. I said, first of all, dude, I'm not doing a pipe ceremony for screen, because that's a very sacred thing that you don't do for screen. We can do a simulated thing that doesn't offend anybody, but I'm not doing something that's offensive to my people, number one. Number two, I said, which pipe ceremony are we going to do? Are we going to do Lakota? Are we going to do Cheyenne? Are we going to do Arapaho, or Mandan, or Hidatsa? And they're looking at me like, oh, I didn't think about that. Well, that's what we have to start thinking about. That we are not the same tribes. We are different tribes, and we think different ways, and we have to respect that. I live in California. California is a very unique state. 109 tribes in the state of California, more tribes than any other state. And where I live in Simi Valley, we are very close to the San Fernando Valley and to Los Angeles. Funny, 3 distinct different tribes. We have Chumash on the West Coast, we have Tataviam in the San Fernando Valley, and we have Kizh, and they all speak different languages. Okay, and they all have different ways. We're all one people, but different tribes, and we have to learn to respect that. And until we do that, we'll never come together. And we need to come together. We need to come together because the government fights each tribe individually. They win. The people fight collectively. We win. That's the way it is. And that's what has to happen with the Leonard issue, with all the different issues that are confronting our people, the environmental issues, the pipelines, on and on and on. We have to come together for the common good. I think Tatanka Yotanka, who was well known as Sitting Bull, said it the best. We need to come together for our children. And we don't do that. See? We do fight among ourselves. And like I say, it's a planned thing. The older I get, the more I see that it's planned, and that division is going to be hard to overcome.
I this may sound a little, I don't know, whatever. But I saw something, and I think it was narrated by David Attenborough. And it had red ants and black ants fighting within a jar. And it said originally in the jar, the black ants and the red ants got along. But then somebody shook the jar.
Exactly.
Began to kill each other.
Right.
The question is not why are they fighting each other? Who shook the jar? And to me, it's governments, it's particular economic companies and interests. It is that 1 or 2% that try to puppetize the rest of the world, and we fall for it. That's one of the problems with and I'm not getting into politics, but those who have fallen for the demagoguery of whatever party they're for, and not seeing, look, we're all human beings. We all have hearts and souls. Those who don't are the ones who are shaking up the goddamn jar. And if we don't, and I think we're here because we want to, but if we don't start coming together where we can, where we have meeting ground, this is where we run into trouble. And so when it breaks my heart when I see different nations, tribes going, you know, on the social media. I go, do you have time to do that? Do you have the room to do that? Or is this more important? Can you see what's behind the importance of what's going on in this today? This one man who stands at a certain position between so many powerful tribes and is a symbol of Native Americans. And frankly, it goes back, I'm sorry, it goes back to World War II and the Nazis. They came for the Italians. They came for this. They came for them. They came for them. If you don't stand up at some point, they will come for you. And so to me, you know, I'm loving what you're saying, and it's firing me up, and it's part of why I came to this club. But I look at how easily we're divided, and the truth is, who and what is dividing us? That's what we need to look at. To me,
It was something very interesting. One of the BLM events, someone was saying how capitalism and the way the government is set up does not work. And I said, boy, are you ever wrong. It works exactly like it's supposed to. It keeps poor people poor, rich people rich. It's working exactly the way it was set up. And we have to learn to, I've been accused of being a communist. I'm not a communist, I'm for people. But I do believe in a lot of social programs like Social Security and like Medicare, and I believe that we should have medical for everyone. Richest country in the world, and yet we can't. We have people dying because they can't pay for medical care. So we have to start looking at. I think that I keep using the word mental colonization because we are colonizing our minds now, and we are becoming so assimilated. I just heard I'll give you a good example. Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, we had the city council sitting around, about 4 of them, and saying that, making fun of a certain ethnic group, and it was their own, and because they speak a different language and they have different customs and traditions. I'm talking about the Zapotec tribe, and the city council making fun of the Zapotecs and saying how they look like monkeys. I don't know what else. Very derogatory things. This is our people who are now oppressed. So we have become the oppressed. We not only suffer oppression, but we also, when we get to a point, we become the our own people. And one of the worst things that's happening in the Native community is lateral violence. We attack each other. I have brought up the crab thing. When one crab gets out of the bucket, the other crab's thrown back down. That's exactly what happens to our people. And how do you fight that? Again, real simple. You ignore it. You just let it go. I could not care less what people think of me. I say, I really don't care. You know what hurts me? When people will criticize me, they say, well, he's really not that good an actor, because I think that I would give Laurence Olivier a run for his money. No, that's not true. I think I'm a terrible actor. But like that would, it really hurts me. That was pretty bad. Now you go, yeah, you're right. That's why I don't do too much acting. But I'm worried more about serious stuff. When you attack me for standing up for what I believe, then that's a whole different matter. I couldn't care less, because I am so involved in those, invested in these issues, that I cannot care what people think. Standing Rock and Oak Flat, if anybody knows what's happening in Oak Flat, it's simple. A foreign government is raping and pillaging the land, the sacred land of the Apache people in Oak Flat. And I was there and I saw for myself. I didn't listen to what other people were saying. And what's happened is that once, Oak Flat is devastated, there's no way to bring it back, and this is what we have to understand. Once things go too far, we cannot bring them back. So we cannot let them get too far. We've already let the Leonard situation get too far. We've already let a lot of issues get too far. We got to stop. We got to stand up. Very frustrating to me. And as frustrating as it is, people say, "Do you ever think of quitting?" Yes, for like a split second, and then I decide, well, that's not going to solve anything. That never solves a thing. The best way to fail is not to try. See? And I'm at least going to try. People say, "Well, you're fighting the government of the United States," and I go, "Yeah, well, that's just the way it is, because we need to again, as with all issues, and since we're talking about Leonard, with this issue, we need to stand up and speak up. We need to educate our people and the rest of the world on what is actually going on. We need to not be so complacent and apathetic that we don't get out and do these things. I'm on a fixed income, and if I can make an event, I'll be there. It costs me, I'm still paying off bills from Danny Rock, but that's just the way it is. My kids are grown. I'm on my own. I can do whatever I want, and I did, and I will continue to do that. Everybody else has got to do the same thing. You cannot make change if you don't are not willing to risk. And that's where we're at right now, I think. So as to what we do next, education really important. Educate people on the issue. The truth about the issue, not the stuff that we're being fed by the FBI and the government. But I can't remember who said something about Leonard was not convicted of murder. He was convicted of aiding and abetting murder, and that was also proven. Well, see, I was not even aware of that. Who made me aware of that was Bob Rubidoux. I had a long conversation with Bob Rubidoux. He came to the house, stayed with us for 3 days, and we had discussion after discussion about this whole situation, about a lot of things, but mainly about Leonard. And he said, "How in the world can you find a man guilty of a crime that was never committed? Since the murder of these two FBI agents is not a murder, since it was a reason of self-defense." That's how Bob got off, and that's how, oh geez, well, I'm getting old, but Butler, yeah, it comes to me. But until Bob told me that himself, I was unaware. And then when I talked to Ben and David, and they filled me in on a lot of what was happening. And people need to know the truth of this whole situation. People need to know the truth, and I don't know how we're going to get it across. I just keep saying the same thing: is I don't care how many times you have to try and fail, but you're going to eventually you will succeed.
Graywolf, I want to truly thank you for coming. I can see where you might have actor issues because you're probably the most authentic person I've ever met. You're you all the way through. This has been the best book club I've ever been to. Next week, folks, Jennifer Bendry's coming, our hero. She is the woman that walked into the White House and demanded to know if Biden was thinking about Leonard. That's going to be interesting also. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm going to get this one out there to everybody. And if you want to join this network we're putting together, you can find us on our Facebook page, or I put Leonard's website in there, www.freeleonardpeltiernow.com. You can hit the contact button and email me. You want to write a letter to the White House, I will print it out and send it to you. We are running a fundraiser right now to get a delegation to Washington DC. Leonard has an original available for the first time since the pandemic. Is there anything I'm leaving out?
I just want to say, Graywolf, thank you. It has been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for addressing our questions and things we didn't have. I'm going to say I love your integrity. I love that you are honest and ready to stand wherever you need to stand. And I don't know about the rest of you, but if each of us can post at least 2 or 3 times on our own personal media, and I'm on about 5 different media, let's post something of Leonard's story, because I did not know until I was here a lot of the stuff, and that takes a long time. I get that. If we can each try to reach out personally and through media and whatever else, I really appreciate it. Anyway, Graywolf, thank you for your time. You really touched me. Thank you.
It was truly an honor. Thank you. I mean,
Yes,
you
I
rock.
want to thank Graywolf. I want to also thank Graywolf, and I want to remind everybody to call the White House. The number is 202-456-1111. And also there's a text number, and you can text 24/7 to 302-404-0880 and tell the president to sign the clemency petition to free Leonard Peltier. And don't forget to write Leonard and tell him that we are still all fighting for him. And also you can email the White House at www.whitehouse.gov/contact 24/7. So thank you, Graywolf. It's been a pleasure and an honor to know you.
Can I say one last thing? Would it be possible?
Yes.
Okay, I'm leaving right now to the rehearsal, the studio where we record. My new CD is coming out pretty soon. Make sure you buy it. Hey,
What's the
Shameless-
name?
it's gonna be the Best of Graywolf Blues Band,
Okay.
Woo! And where can it be found?
pretty much everywhere, but I'll set it up on my Facebook page. Just go to Graywolf Blues Band Facebook page and it'll tell you what to do.
You've got a bunch of
Yes.
new followers, dude.
Woo! And everyone share our YouTube page, please, so that we can get our meetings out there and we can spread the word, because we don't have a lot of followers on it. We only have about 60. So everybody can subscribe to the YouTube page.
I can do that real easy.
Awesome. Thank you, Graywolf. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Graywolf.
Thank you.
Thank you
Come
so
on,
Good
much.
night.
Bye, all
Bye,
of you.
everyone.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much. Good night, everybody. This is great.
You are
Thanks for listening
appreciated,
to me.
Graywolf.